Airman Cave Archives! Knowing and doing are two different things. Hey, welcome back to Airman Cave Archives. Tonight, I thought we'd take a look at one of the books that I did, An Eagle's Eye View of Victory Camp. Again, An Eagle's Eye View of Victory Camp is basically my time in Iraq and a journal that I had kept for my wife so that she could see kind of what had gone on during the time that I was over there. An Eagle's Eye View because I'm Air Force, hence the Eagle, and Victory Camp because that's where I was actually stationed at. Now, the way that this book came into being is basically after a couple of days of being in country, my wife had told me a story about one of her best friend's brothers that was over in Afghanistan, and she said that he had had a mortar or a rocket attack, and it was pretty close. And so, of course, a male being a male, I had to prove that my attacks were better. And so I said, oh, well, we had, this happen. And she was like, oh my gosh, don't tell me about it for the rest of the time, because that's just, I can't believe that that's going on. I don't want to have to hear about it. And so I was like, okay. And so for the rest of the time, basically whenever I would talk to her, I told her that everything was pretty much a vacation. Now, if you were in Iraq around 2003, 2004 time frame, you know that that wasn't true. But I didn't want her to have to worry about it while I was over there, and she was dealing with raising our new son, Christopher. And so basically I kept this journal, and whenever I got home, I gave it to her to read after a couple of days being home, and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't tell me about this. And I was like, well, I didn't want you to have to worry about it. Now, the book, I actually put a poem that I'd written sitting in the Goodfellow parking lot, Goodfellow Air Force Base parking lot, right after 9/11 had occurred. And so I thought it was fitting to be able to put it into this book. I'm angered by the loss of life, but understand that some come and some go. I also understand all is fair in love and war, I suppose. There was no war to speak of, though. No promises of bloodshed to prepare us. No proverbial lines had been drawn in the sand. Careers were being bought and sold. The trash was being removed. They were all just being, until. Steel giants weakened in their knees, then tumbled, while unsung heroes were forced into the light, symbols of hope, red, white, and blue, now visible from every view. With our happiness, innocence, and pride attacked, we dug deep to find the strength to raise our chins, but in our minds relived the atrocity over again and again. From that moment on, we would seek retribution. For now, though, we will weep in previously reassuring harbors, trying to come to grips with our losses and look towards tomorrow. We are who we are, not vicious animals pulled into war, just proud Americans being. So again, that one was called Damaged Innocence, and that's at the front of the book. And then I thought I'd just read a couple excerpts. This one is my wife's favorite whenever she read over it. And you'll catch it at the end because it was kind of like, really? So this is from the 30th of November, 2003. And I put down BIAP, which is Baghdad International Airport, and VC, which is Victory Camp in Iraq. So I got snagged for shooter detail. Whoa, Blossom. We went out to BIAP the first time to pick up some major, but he wasn't there. Just as I was taking a sigh of relief that we had made it back safe and sound, that they had told us it was time to go back out to the airport and get him again. I thought things were a little weird when we pulled up to the ECP, or entry control point, at BIAP. There were no floodlights on. They waved us through without checking our IDs. As we were pulling up to the terminal area, several armed vehicles flew by us, and some guys on forerunners were telling people to move off the main road. Right as we parked, the sirens started to go off, and they said to take cover. At this point, the major comes running up to inform us that a mortar had just hit a tent. He directed us to get in the Humvees and get the F out of there. We sped off for Victory Camp, locked and loaded. We made it back safe, and this is the part she enjoys. but I had to eat a Pop Tart because I missed chow. So if people ever do buy the book, which you can get on Amazon, and they see pieces like this, that's pretty much the premise of the book. It was the day-to-day occurrences and the things that would go on while I was there. Then of course in the back there's the pictures that go along with the journal entries. So as you're reading through the book, you can look at the pictures in the back and kind of get an idea. If you don't have that visual reading style, you can see the pictures that go with them. Now, after a long tour and many trials and tribulations and lots of learning, thank you, Sergeant Major Arturo Granado. This is one of my favorite entries leading up to being able to come home and rejoin my family. But this is the 28th of March, 2004, and I had it quoted, last full day of work, VC Iraq, again, VC being Victory Camp. I got in and started to do some hands-on training with the replacements. I stopped off and picked up my letter of release. This would let me out of the Baghdad area. And I tried to drop off my SAPI plates, or upper armor, and ammo, but supply was closed. Soup, soup. I had an MRE, or meal ready to eat, for lunch. I won't get to eat that anymore once I get home. Major Ha wanted to get a photo with me because he didn't have any of me to show his family. Sergeant Major and I took the replacements for a tour around Victory. It felt like my last go around. There were several tanks kicking up dust while patrolling the perimeter wall. I saw a couple Blackhawks doing touch and go maneuvers, and formations of soldiers were out doing PT. To top off the tour, we went up to Signal Hill. This is where a few months ago, a lifetime it seemed, that Dave said, "Sergeant Nelson, we're in Baghdad." Now standing at it, it doesn't seem real here at the end. We started back down the hill in the direction of the chow hall. The lighting this time of day was setting up to have the feel of a movie moment. There was a Sarah McLachlan song playing on the radio, and as my weapon rested on my chin, I began to daydream. Sergeant Major broke my train of thought. "I know what you're thinking." "Yes, sir, it's time to go home," I replied. I had dinner and then went back to the tent to pack some. There were a couple of little boons tonight. I miss my family. Wow. Yeah, just reading that, it washes over and takes me back to actually being there and not realizing what you go through and what you're able to take in or comprehend and deal with. But yeah, I missed my family the whole time I was over there, and just was ready to get back. And I think that was reflected there at the end pretty clearly. But now that you know, or you will know if you buy it off of Amazon, what it's like to be a deployed member in a undisclosed, well, disclosed now, location, do yourself a favor, talk to some of those family members or friends that you haven't in a while, or if you do and you just haven't been able to get the stories out of them, talk to them, because there's a lot of different things that may need to be talked about, just so that they can get out there and you can see kind of the experience through their eyes. So again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Airman Cave Archives! Knowing and doing are two different things.